What's up, guys? What you're about to listen to is an interview that someone did with me for an article that they were writing about how to utilize a CRM, how to utilize social media for selling, and when and why to hire a sales manager. So this is somebody who were asking me questions. There's some really great content here that'll bring you guys a lot of value. So check it out, listen to it. Let me know what you think.
Sorry, I forgot to hit the button. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, no, it happens. So my original CRM, client relationship management tool, I built in a spreadsheet that gave me the information I needed so I could track my opportunities, track my leads, track my clients, track projects. And because there's still, there's some multi-million-dollar small businesses out there that are still operating, without a client relationship management tool, without a CRM. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot of details that get missed, and there's a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, ultimately, what is a CRM? It's a client relationship management tool, but what it is a tool or process that allows you to keep track of like client information, notes, pictures, contracts, invoices, whatever, like all the details that go into successfully executing a project. There's so many people specifically on the sales side, right, that don't keep up with leads, don't keep up with proposals, don't keep up with follow-ups, don't keep up with notes about, those specific client situations or what happened on that last discovery call. What are the notes or details or situations that go into what led that client to you or whatever, what their needs were, what their problems were, what their objections were. And it's really hard to lead a sales team specifically, or really just grow your sales at all if you don't have a great way to track those conversations and make it
keeping
possible.
Track without a CRM, I would assume would be a little more time consuming.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. It's impossible to grow a business beyond a few clients, right?
I know some multi-million-dollar businesses, and so here's the difference. A lot of businesses just run one lead to the next. Mm-hmm. So they're always just chasing the next opportunity. And so they're not worried about tracking anything. They're not worried about keeping up with anything. Many business owners are still running the the success of their account or the success of their business is based on the number in their bank account. And do they have enough money for payroll this week is how they're judging success. But there's so many more metrics. There's so much more trackability. There's so much more from a data and information perspective where you can grow a quote unquote successful company without a CRM. Mm-hmm. But you will fail at some point because you do not have an understanding of what's working, what's not working. You're leaving a ton of information on the table from previous clients because CRMs can be utilized on the top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel, or post project. CRMs can be utilized for each stage of that client journey, whether you're, initially getting the lead or it's a client that you did a project for a year ago that you're looking to follow up with. If you don't have that data, if you don't have the information, if you don't have, the money, the dates, the notes, it's very difficult to lead a long-term, scalable business.
Okay. Well, aren't CRMs expensive though? I mean, I'm a plumber. I'm not a spreadsheet guy, so I can't, I'm not going to do a spreadsheet. I keep a sheet. I fill out an order form for everybody who calls, and we put a date on it if they schedule, and we hang it on a clipboard if they don't.
So they range from free to several hundred, if not thousands of dollars a month. There's some really good ones out there right now that would cost you, less than $25 a month.
Could you give me a name of a couple of those? Because I'll just look at what they say.
Markate is one that Markate. It's Markate. Jobber is another one. Job Nimbus is another one. Acculinks is Acculinks is ACCULYNX, I believe.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah. Okay. And then Builder Trend is one of the more expensive ones. That's on the top end. It's very robust, very customizable, and not for everybody. So I'm sure we'll get to this in a second. How do you pick one, right? It's probably your next question.
Right. That's the next question. Yeah.
So the what I always say is make a list of everything that you wish a CRM could do for you. And then compare it to that list. If you go out there and say, what's the best CRM for me right now? There are hundreds out there, if not thousands of options out there for CRMs. So if you go out there and say, let me just compare these, it'll be almost impossible to do a proper, diagnostic of which is best, because they all have pros and cons. They all have features that do it different ways. They all have different, different approaches, which makes them different, right? That's why there's so many of them. But what I say is like, okay, I want the CRM to do these 10 things for us. I want it to track, client data or leads. I want it to track proposals and invoices. I want to be able to use it for my scheduling. I want to be able to use it for pictures. I want to be able to use it for notes. Okay, then what does those things the best for me right now? And like for most people who don't have one right now, it's very overwhelming to go into the process of figuring out which one's for you. I went through this process. So I started a demolition and grading company last year, or actually in 2020. And so I went through the diagnostic. I went through the analysis of what's the CRM we want to utilize for this company. And I just started with what do we want it to do for us? And then I went out and found like who can do it the best for the best value, right? Because there's probably CRMs out there for $500 a month that would do what we wanted, but also does 99 other things I don't need right now.
Right.
And so which one gave me the access? Because for some things it's automation or triggers or email campaigns or alerts that you want to utilize it. You want to communicate to your client through it. There's a number of things. So I say, make the list of everything you want a CRM to do for you, and then go compare the CRMs to that list. If you go out there and just compare CRMs to each other, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of things that happen a number of ways, and the same across multiple CRMs. And, but like, I mean, even Asana is a free task management tool that could be utilized as a CRM. It could be built to do that, depending on what you want your CRM to do, because there's two sides to a CRM as well. And like, this is maybe getting into the weeds a little bit, but like there's the sales side of a CRM, and then there's a production side to a CRM. So some people have a production process in place right now that they're happy with, but they have a very bad sales side of that where they're not tracking leads, they're not tracking conversations. So sometimes a task management tool such as Asana, which is free, can be very customizable to make it a proper CRM for you. There's other ones out there like Keep is another one. KEAP is another one that's a pretty good one. Go High Level is another one. And they're all different price points. It's just like, what do you want it to do? And then go figure out which one brings you that for the value.
And then there are some, I know in certain industries, there are companies that target specific industries.
Yeah, like AccuLinks and Job Nimbus really were built around the roofing world. Markate and Jobber are I don't think they're very specific. Go High Level and Keep are probably more agnostic outside. Like Markate and Jobber are still more construction focused, but like Keep and Go High Level are kind of like they're very agnostic. They're very horizontal. They could be for anybody.
Are there specific things that a service company should be looking for, you think, in a CRM as opposed to, say, a store or an online retailer?
I mean, schedule is definitely a big one. Like keeping up with your production schedule will be different, right? From a sales perspective, the life cycle, like the life cycle of the sales process is longer, depending. Like, look, are you a plumbing company, electrical company that does service work that's very transactional and reactive, or are you a remodeling company where your average sales cycle is probably 4 to 6 months, right? It definitely does that. So I would say like properly understanding where your client is in the sales process would be part of it. I would say tracking your numbers from a income or a revenue and expense perspective. Like most construction companies suck at that. Like understanding like what did we make on, like what was the revenue and then what were all of our expenses associated with that job. I think timekeeping and time tracking of your hourly employees would be something that's different from like, a retail location. They're probably clocking in, clocking out differently, where when you're trying to track on the labor side, you're probably tracking hours to a specific project where like, an employee might be on 2 or 3 different projects in a week. You want to know which hours were allocated to which project, which you can do in a lot of the CRMs now as well. And then, production schedule and management, like where is the team this week? What is our outlook on the schedule? When are we booking into right now? When is our next availability? Those are also things that a lot of companies struggle with understanding.
I think this would be pretty helpful for the kind of companies that have ongoing clients like lawn services and pool.
Oh yeah, especially because, especially in
services.
those things where you can create a lot more automations now than even like just a couple of years ago, where you can set where like the reminder text messages and emails go out automatically so that that client's reminded that you're coming, especially for like let's say a pest control company who may need to get access into the home to do their jobs. Having that automation around alerts to say, hey, don't forget, we're going to be there next week. Hey, don't forget, we're going to be there tomorrow. Hey, reminder, we're coming in a couple hours. Allows them to, like, because if you can't get into the house, you can't complete your job, more than likely. So.
Anything else you think small businesses need to know about understanding, what a CRM is for?
I mean, the last part would just be like sales activity tracking, like especially if you have a sales team, understanding, what type of activity they're doing, who they're talking to, how many appointments they're running, what their close rate is, are they doing the job? Because it's very easy to get lost in it if you're not paying attention and not knowing who's doing their job and who's not. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing we haven't talked about yet would be like sales team management.
Yeah, we got that on the list here.
Would be a big part of it.
Okay, and then, all right. Since we were there, let's skip that one for now. Let's jump right into the sales management one. When is the right time to hire a sales manager? Does a small business, really need a sales manager? I'm running a home inspection company here. I got 2 inspectors working for me and a gal in the office who types everything up. Do I really?
No, I would say no. A company of that size probably doesn't need a sales manager. I would say, realistically, when you get to 5 or more sales reps, it's probably time to hire a sales manager. I'm gonna give you like I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. And like, my opinion is anytime you get too busy to do the work that got you busy, is time to like start to outsource or hire. Right. So like if you've been leading 3 people, but you get so busy like as the owner, right, managing the work that you don't have the time to manage your sales team, and the sales team starts to suffer because you don't have the time to give to them, like that's when you should hire a sales manager or promote somebody from within into more of a leadership role. Because, this is a rule of thumb across all leadership is when you get too busy doing the work that got you busy, it's time to start to hire. So that might be a bookkeeper. It might be a production manager. It might be a sales manager. And sometimes it comes down to like, what do you like more? There's some leaders out there that hate sales, right? So you should probably hire a sales manager sooner. If you love sales, if that's your nature, if that's how you built your business, maybe hiring a production manager first makes more sense because you like the sales side better. But regardless, you can't be full-time production manager and full-time sales manager. If you're just so busy, you'll be dropping balls on both sides, and then you're not really scaling effectively.
Okay. Okay, so I know that I needed some help because I'm overwhelmed. I can't keep track of my salespeople. I can't keep track of my production people. And I certainly don't have time to worry about financing and all that because I've got to focus. So I'm going to get a sales manager. What is it I should expect this person to do once I've got them? What do I hand off to them?
So you would hand off like personnel management. So like your one-on-ones, your meetings, your accountability, like that first part, right? Because, let's be honest, most business owners are not sitting down with their sales reps on a regular basis as it is. I think that's a problem. I think that's not the right way to go about leading a sales team. I think salespeople need regular accountability and oversight to stay on top of them and make sure they're doing their jobs. So let's say that part, right? So they'd be doing, one-on-one meetings every week, potentially sales meetings every week, keeping up with the pipeline and understanding like, where are we to our targets, which means you have to have targets in place, which not all small businesses do, but ultimately the sales manager's job is to lead the people, right? Because people management is one of the most time consuming parts of leadership, right? So people management will be part of it. Training, right? Especially if you onboard additional sales reps. Right. So if you're the owner and you're spending, it could take you weeks to properly train a new hire. Right. So you're offloading the new hire training to that sales manager. And then I would say CRM pipeline management, like that becomes that person's responsibility to make sure all the reps are, utilizing it correctly, putting their notes in, updating the pipeline, moving projects through correctly. And like in some businesses, the sales manager's job could be to come in and help build a sales process. Maybe you've just been doing it kind of haphazardly so far. So this person could be in charge of developing the standard operating procedures and expectations of the sales team. That's the big ones. Recruiting potentially even.
Okay. What is sales planning? How's that work?
So sales planning, in my perspective, is like understanding, like, what are we doing over the next 90 days to attain the results we're looking for? What I think what a lot of people don't take seriously is that the activity you do today pays off in 90 to 120 days. And so they're still like we talked about earlier, running and gunning, living one lead at a time. And that works to an extent. But at some point you're going to get caught because you haven't been doing the work. You haven't been planning. You don't know what your marketing budget is. You don't know what your sales numbers are. You haven't reverse engineered to how many meetings do you need to run in a given time period to hit the numbers you want based on your close rate. So some of it's reverse engineering what it looks like to do that stuff. How many appointments do we need to run based on our close rate and average project size to hit the targets? Somebody's like, I want to do 10 million this year. How are you going to get there? I'm going to work hard every day. That ain't going to work. You need to understand how many leads do you need, because how many leads convert to opportunities, how many opportunities convert to clients, what's your average client value. You need to reverse engineer a lot of that stuff. So from a sales planning perspective, if you want to do 10 million this year and your average project size for round numbers is $50,000, well, then you can do math and you know how many projects you need.
Right.
And if you know what your close rate is, you know how many opportunities you need. And if you know what your qualifier rate is, which means like your qualifying rate is how many people that call that actually turn into a legitimate client opportunity, right? Because you qualify people out, so like I could run some quick math, but like, if you know how many leads you get, what your qualifying rate is, what your close rate is, what your average project size is, you can reverse into exactly how many leads you need. Well, the sales manager's job could figure out, what are we doing to attain the right amount of leads? Is it marketing? Is it networking? Is it prospecting? Is it door knocking? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Like, what are we doing to get the amount of opportunities we need?
Okay. Yeah. I covered that. Okay. The biggest issue that I think at least the small business owners I've worked with come into, it always seems to come back to budget. They're already in, especially in this situation, when they need a sales manager, that may be the area of their business that they've kind of let go. Mm-hmm. And so it's getting out of control. Maybe the number of closes is slowing down, or the revenues are slowing down. So they know they need to keep somebody, get somebody in there to handle all that. How do you decide how much somebody like that is going to be worth to your company? How do you figure out what to pay somebody like that? Because I mean, the market for sales managers, when you look at the job leads, when you talk to companies, the pay scale is all over the place.
Yeah.
So how do you find somebody with the right qualifications, and what are those qualifications? How do you determine that? And how do you figure out what to pay them?
So qualifications, experience and values are big ones, like, utilizing a personality test to understand their leadership tactics, or not tactics, but their leadership capabilities, experience, their mindset, the way they approach things. Obviously promoting somebody from within that you've seen do the job is a really great way to do that. Like, there's probably somebody on your team right now who has kind of like risen to the top of, like, taking ownership and being a leader. You want to try to find somebody who's kind of doing the job before they got the job, to an extent, if you can. If you're hiring externally, obviously references would be a big part of this, and experience. And, when you ask them the questions about like what we just talked about, how would you go about sales planning for my business? See how they answer it. You may not know a lot about sales, but a good answer compared to a bad answer. So that, like, you really getting better at interview questions to better understand, like, how, like, I'm more worried about what you're going to do for me than what you've been doing. So I'm going to ask you more questions about how do you envision yourself playing a role here? What value do you plan to bring? What results do you think we can expect from you being in that position? You know, how would you build a sales process here? Like, what's your process for leadership? What's your process for accountability? What's your process for performance improvement? You know, understanding what their baseline is. And if they can't answer those questions, like if you ask me any of those questions right now, I would have a very succinct answer for you.
Right.
Right. So what type of experience do they have? If they're like, well, I don't know, I've never done it before, then you have to decide how much you're willing to train that person to do that stuff. Realistically, when I'm looking to hire a leader on my team, I want them to be at least, you know, close or better than me at the specific task that I'm hiring them for. Right. So if you can't tell me how you're going to run my sales team, I have to teach you that. I already suck at that. I don't want to have to teach you that. Right. Like, I want you to come in here telling me how we should run the sales team. That's why I'm hiring a sales manager. You know, so if you're hiring externally, I would ask more questions about that. Like, I really don't give a shit what you've done. You can lie about what you've done. Right. When I ask you about what you're going to be doing for me, if you don't have a solid answer for that, you're not showing me that I can trust you.
And how you're going to go about doing it. That's really the key question.
It's the key question. It's absolutely the key question. Because if they don't have ideas on value they can bring to your company, the ROI is a little bit more blurry. You know, like, oh, dude, I'm a great motivator. Cool. How? What do you do? What do you do when a sales rep isn't doing his job? What do you do when they're not using the CRM appropriately? How do you run a sales team meeting? I don't care that you used to. Tell me how you would do it. And I think those are some of the best interview questions. I really don't give a shit about your resume. I give a shit about what value you're planning to bring to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And then as far as payment, even as a sales manager, I think, you know, a substantial amount of their income should be success driven, results driven. So I'll pay a sales manager like a little bit of a higher salary, but it's still heavily commission focused based on results. So that, like, you're not really spending money that you didn't make, if that makes sense. You know, so I think a small to medium salary plus a commission structure that's based on results of the team, I think is how you protect yourself from, you know, you got to pay him something to do the sales manager job. In my opinion, I don't think you can have a sales manager that is commission only like you could with a sales rep. So I think it's, you know, $25,000 to $50,000 potentially, you know, like that person, like, I guess it really depends on the size of your business, but if you're hiring a sales manager, that person should be able to see a path to make $100,000 to $150,000, you know, at a performance level, not blowing it out of the water. Like, you're not taking me from $1 million to 10 million to make 150 grand. You know, if they're performing in their role and they're meeting metrics and they're doing their job, you know, they should be able to see a path to making 100 to 150 grand a year.
Right. And you want to pay them that salary so that they don't spend all of their time just focused on sales. They have to spend some of their time focused on managing the sales team.
Correct. Like the reporting, the CRM, the one-on-ones, like the hours of activity that are not directly revenue producing, because ultimately I want them to make their team better, which exponentially increases their value. Right. So I want to pay them something for that leadership activity. And, you know, I can go back and forth on if a sales manager should sell as well. It's a very difficult role. I did it for years. It's very difficult to like be a player coach in that role, because like you're always being torn between the needs of your sales team and the needs of your client base if you're selling. So I would say that is a very difficult position to put somebody in. So like if they're going to be a player coach type role, they should have a certain commission rate based on the team and a certain commission rate for themselves, but they should be like, because you want to motivate somebody, you motivate them with their money for the most part, especially in sales, right? So I'm going to make it more appealing for them to get the team to increase their sales than for him to go sell. Right? Because if let's just say round numbers, right? If he makes 1% off everything the team sells, but 10% off everything he sells, he's going to be more motivated to go sell stuff himself because he's going to make more money on that.
Right.
I rather lean it towards like, hey, I'll pay you a little bit more if you sell something, but you're really here to lead the team, right? So I might pay you, 3% of what the team sells, but I'm only going to pay you like 4% on things you bring in. And yes, is that fair? Sure. I don't know. It doesn't fucking matter. His job is to get the team better, not go sell himself. And like, maybe it's 3 and 5%. I don't know, but I'm not going to reward him for going to sell on his own, because that's not his job.
Right.
I do want him to get a little bit of value from selling on his own, but I want him to get a lot of value from making the team better. Dude, you gotta send me this. I gotta release this as a podcast or something. This is a killer training.
Yeah, you can cut pieces. I can be happy to send it to you. Sure. Cool. Cut pieces of it up and
I'll just release the whole thing. I don't even care. I never edit my podcast. I'm 200 episodes in. I've never edited one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, I just put them out there.
See, I come from commercial radio and television, so we edit everything.
Yeah, well, that's the benefit of a podcast. It's not syndicated.
Right. Okay. I gotta just make a little note here real quick.
But like, ultimately here, you gotta look at, because you said like, I can't afford it, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at hiring a sales manager, you gotta look at, if it works, there has to be return on investment, right? So the money to do it should be there if that person does their job. If they don't do their job, you're typically firing them in 60 to 90 days. So like, how much money is really at risk over 60 to 90 days to determine whether or not they're working or not? Because if they're working, there's a return on the investment pretty quickly. If it's not, what's at risk? I mean, let's say a $40,000 salary, that's like less than 10 grand over 90 days that you're risking, right?
Right.
And ideally you use personality tests and interview questions and references to like do a good job hiring. But like, really, how much is at risk to determine whether or not they're working? It's typically less than 10 grand over the course of 90 days, which is just not a lot of money in the grand scheme of business. And like, if it works, the ROI is very quick. If it doesn't, you fire them quickly. Like, that's always been my thing. Like, either you're getting me a return on my investment in you, or you're fired. Like, I'm not here to pay you. Like, I'm here for you to bring value to the company.
Right. Job isn't charity. It's,
right.
It's a business arrangement.
And that's why I do like a moderate to low salary and making it results driven, because I want that person motivated to get results. And when you're paying them a percentage of revenue, the ROI is there. You're only paying them if revenue's coming in, as opposed to like out of the pocket nonstop. I would never pay a sales manager like $100,000 salary. No, I would never, because then they're comfortable as shit. There's no reason to work hard.
Right. Their income always has to be tied to what their team is doing.
Correct.
How their team is performing.
I would say a large percentage for them to like, in my opinion, like, no one can live off 30 to 40 grand a year. If you're in a sales manager role,
you're not living very well, maybe in a few cities in the South, but
but not in a leadership role. Like, because like, you want nice things. That's why you're doing the stress of leadership. So I would say like, you want to give them a path to 100 to 150 grand, but like a very small percentage of that should be salary. Big percentage of that should be results driven.
Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about using social media to sell. Mm-hmm. Why do small businesses need social media in the first place? I mean, isn't it all TikTok dancing and political fighting and cat videos? I mean, what's in social media?
It's been a lot more than that for a long time. I think, people who are uncomfortable with the platform tend to go down those rabbit holes, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the reality. If you look at, I think these metrics are from 2020, the average American adult spent 4.5 hours a day on social media. So if your target audience is American adults, they're spending more time on social media than anywhere else in their lives. And so if you look at the concept of getting opportunities, getting leads, getting in front of people, becoming known, liked, and trusted, you can door knock and maybe do 50 doors in a day, right? You're going out to shake hands one at a time. You're just waiting for the next referral. I'm word of mouth only, Mike. Cool. Well, then the only people who know you are the people who've done business with you.
Right.
You need more business. And so if that's the way that the average American adult is, you have 4 hours a day of open windows to go shake hands virtually with as many fucking people as you can get access to. Right. So you can, and it's doesn't cost money, right? Like, I release a podcast right now or a YouTube video. Like, podcasts and YouTube are both free platforms, right? We'll use those as a good metric here. My YouTube channel gets 18,000 views a month. That's passive shaking hands. That's passive adding value. That's passive approach. You know how long it would take for my sales team to go meet 18,000 people every month? It'd be impossible. And that's not even a hugely successful channel yet. It's a good, like, I'm happy with those results, but that's not a lot. You know, I make an Instagram post, I get 1,500 to 2,000 people see it right now. Again, not a huge number, but here's the reality. This is where most people, I think, struggle with the social media thing, is like, well, I don't have a huge following, I don't get that much engagement, right? Most contractors need less than 50 new clients next year to double their revenue. Not all. I would say all need less than 500 to double their revenue. If you're a plumbing service company, you know, like, it's a little bit different, right, than if you're a remodeler or a roofer or something like that. But most people need less than 50 to 100 new clients to change their lives forever. And so you don't need a huge following. You need the right following. You don't need a lot of engagement. You need the right engagement. So, like, putting out free content on Instagram that's entertaining and educational, that attracts an audience of the people who are interested in what you have to say because there's somebody who has a need based on the solution you bring to the table. I mean, most builders need less than 10 new clients a year. So it doesn't matter, like, the metrics, it doesn't matter. It's becoming known, liked, and trusted on a regular basis where your audience is, right? Like, look, if you build baskets for a living, you're going to fairs and events, right? Because that's where your target audience is. You're gonna have your booth there. People are gonna be walking around the festivals and events, and they're gonna see your baskets and they're gonna want to buy one. People say, that's not crazy, that makes sense. But you just spent 8 to 10 hours on location, sitting there waiting for somebody to walk up to your booth. Social media, you can make a post in 5 seconds and everybody's seeing it all day. And so you just got to go where your target audience is. And that's the free way of doing it. Like, that's the free option, is just put out content and the right people will see it. If it's decent content, you'll get better over time. But Mike, I hate the way I look on video and in pictures. What do you think you look like at the kitchen table? You're the same person.
Right.
You sound the same, look the same, act the same, like, you dress the same in person that you would online. The only difference is you can see you online. That's the only difference, is that your opinion of you is what stops you. You're the same person in these homes selling to people, and you're the same person online. You just get access to more people online.
Okay. Now you talked about sharing your expertise, putting out content out there that people can use. Can you sell directly on social media, or is it really more of a relationship marketing kind of platform for you? Is it?
I think that really depends on, like, what you're selling. So I would say more of, so I look at like elective services, or like the I want tos. I want to remodel my kitchen. I want to put a pool in. I want to build a deck. Those are the elective. Like, people are electing to do it. I want to do this. I think that's more relationship based. I don't think you're selling a $150,000 kitchen remodel through an Instagram post. I think you're building a relationship with them so they trust that you're the person that can make their dream come to life. I think if it's more of a reactive service, like a plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roofing, where, like, someone has a need right now, I think you can. And if you're a product, I think you can. I think the service is a little different. I think products is probably for sure. You know, if you're selling the best hammer in the world, you could probably sell it online pretty easily. It's more e-commerce at that point, right? I think if it's a reactive service, like a plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roofing, where there's a leak or like water or a light's not working, I think, like, someone could schedule online with you because they understand your pricing model. They know what your trip fee is, and but it's also relationship based. You can't not build a relationship and just say, hey, if you have a problem, call us now. Like, that's not going to work. You have to build the relationship over time, but then you could get people to purchase from you in an e-commerce style way to get them to come out. But, like, I think absolutely not on the elective side of things. I don't think you can sell online. Like, you have to build that relationship over time. So those people ready to spend $50, $100, $500, $1 million on a project, they build a relationship with you over time. And because people in those worlds, the elective side, not all of them, someone's going to shoot me for this, but like not all of them, but most of them are more experience value driven than price driven, right? Really, when you get over 50, I think under 50 grand is still very price conscious. I think over like 50,000 plus is more value, like experience, trust factor. You know, how likely how do I feel like you're going to deliver for me? I think under 50 grand, I think you still have some price shoppers out there that are still kind of like very price conscious. I think over 50 grand, there, and again, there's still outliers in that space too. But I think for the most part, like they want to know and trust that you're the right person for them, not just on the quality of your work, but like, what is the client experience? What is your guarantees? What do you do when things go wrong? How do you communicate? Would I even like having you in my house for 6 months? You know, there's a lot of those questions that it's impossible to get that information to somebody without having a consistent online presence. It's impossible. You're not selling that in a 2-hour in-home consultation. You're just not.
Okay, and that brings me to my next question. How do you pick a platform? How do you figure out where you need to be in order to reach the people you need to reach?
So there's probably 2, maybe 3 questions. First is, where is your target audience? Right? If you're B2C, business to consumer, LinkedIn may not be the best place for you. Right? If you're B2B, business to business, TikTok's probably not the best option for you. Right? And so like, first question is like, where is my target audience? Right? You know, I'll use an example. You know, there's a reason you don't see Lamborghini commercials, because Lamborghini decided that their target audience is not watching television. Right. So they're not putting money into TV and billboards and shit like that. That's not where their target audience is. Right. So you don't see those commercials because they've said that's not where we want to put our money. So same concept. Where's your target audience, right? Who are they? Where are they? What do they believe in? You know, I think Instagram and Facebook are kind of like neutral to that perspective. You know, I think everybody's there and then they use it for different reasons. You know, so I like the second question is like, what platform are you most comfortable with? Right? Like if you're used to be like, when I first started my business, I was most comfortable with Instagram. So I focused on Instagram for the first like year because I understood it. I haven't engaged with it for a while. I understood how it worked. I understood what I liked. I understood how the content worked, how the copywriting worked, how the hashtags worked, how the stories worked. Like, so I understood Instagram better than Facebook. So I went more focused on Instagram. And then I realized like, okay, how do I get this to the next level? And then I started doing the podcasting, and then I started my YouTube channel. You know, I'd say everybody uses YouTube for educational and entertaining content. So like how-tos, what-tos, when-tos, those are great pieces of content for YouTube because people are Googling that shit. Like, when should I replace my roof? You know, when should I replace my water heater? Like, why is my water cold? Like, those are questions people are physically Googling. And right, Google's the #1 search engine. YouTube's the #2 search engine in the world. And Google owns YouTube, right? So every time you Google something, they're putting you on YouTube. So like those are great platforms too, but those are kind of like, I would say, content 2.0 type things. Like if you're not consistent on Facebook and Instagram, which is kind of like a foundational environment, like I would not start with YouTube because it's gonna be very difficult to build an audience there. It's not impossible. And like, these are all, I'm talking about this all from an organic free perspective. You know, you want to start a YouTube channel and put money behind YouTube ads and start to target, you can do that. You know, you can do that if that's your thing. But like, I just think, but it's also the third thing I would say is like, what does your target audience expect out of people they do business with, right? If they're used to seeing the vendors or suppliers or people, the businesses they do business with an online presence, they're going to expect that if you're for real, if you're trustworthy, if I can believe in you, you should have an online presence because I'm taught that good businesses have an online presence. You know, so part of it is like, what's your competition doing? And I wouldn't say like always do exactly what they're doing, but if like every other company that does what you do in your area has an Instagram account, you should probably have an Instagram account. And I think like Facebook for business is hard from a free perspective because like they throttle the shit out of your content if you're not paying them. That was going to
be my next question. Yeah, because that algorithm it's just killing businesses that 3 or 4 years ago were getting a lot of attention.
It's Facebook's primary revenue is businesses with ads and using targeted approaches. So if you post something on your Facebook business page, no one's going to see it. You might as well just copy and paste whatever you put somewhere else, because like, unless you're putting money behind it, even just $1 a day will 10x your engagement from a business perspective. Like, there's a cost of entry there, and Facebook don't give a shit. They will not show your stuff to anybody if you are not putting money behind that post.
Okay, what about Instagram? Are they the same?
Not as much.
Facebook owns them.
It's not as much. But there's also like, you can set your Instagram account to like 4 or 5 different things right now. Like, you can be a user, a business, a creator, an influencer, and each of those things basically have a different set of rules and different set of algorithms, different set of what you have access to. So like, and that's like, again, like that's probably, social media 3.0. If you're just getting started, don't fucking worry about it. Just start your Instagram account. But my opinion is, I have found better engagement on Instagram than I have on like my business Facebook page. And then but my personal Facebook page, like, well, Mike, I don't want to mix business and personal. Well, if you're a business owner, why the hell not? It's your job to make money. Your life is your business. Why would you not mix that together on your personal Facebook page, for instance? And you're like, well, I don't want like people to be bugged because I'm always talking about my business. People who are bugged by you talking about your business is never going to buy from you. So how valuable is that person in your life?
Right.
Like, if your mom or aunt or cousin's giving you shit because you're posting about your business on your Facebook page, does it really matter?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. And then, okay, what about platforms like Twitter or Pinterest? Are those useful for getting your message out?
I'll be honest, like, I have never used Twitter. I'm gonna no comment on that one. I don't know. Okay. It's a short format platform where like you're very short blurbs. So I mean, there are plenty of people that have used it very successfully. I haven't, so I'm not going to have an opinion on it. I don't know one way or the other. But I'll say this about just in general social media: consistency is better than quality. So like, if you make one post a month on TikTok, on Twitter, it's not going to work. You're like, oh, it doesn't work for me. Well, you didn't give it a fair chance. But that's all platforms. Like, if you're not ready to post on a daily basis, just don't start until you're ready. Because like, it's not going to work. Consistency beats quality 100% of the time. Like, someone who posts 5 days a week will get better engagement than someone who does one really good post a week. Because it just doesn't pop up that often. But I think Pinterest and Houzz are very good platforms to be on. If you look at, how the consumer utilizes Pinterest to like make their vision boards and see what's out there. And, I used it somewhat effectively years ago when I was helping run a remodeling company, or I was selling for a remodeling company, vice president of sales, whatever you want to call it. When I was in charge of sales for a remodeling company, we used Pinterest and Houzz. And they've come a long way since then. A newer one is Nextdoor. It's like a community social media strategy that's like geographically focused. That's a good one as well that you should be active on and have your clients be active on for you. But like Pinterest, Houzz, and Nextdoor, I'd say are all pretty similar. Like they're all different, but like, they're all more community focused than content focused. But if you're posting regularly, but like, even like, I think Dave talked about this, but even using Google My Business as a regular posting platform, puts you in front of people on a more regular basis where your target audience is, right, on Google. So, Pinterest is good, but also depends on what you're doing, right? Again, if you're an elective service, probably. If you're a reactive service, probably not. It really could, like, where's your audience, right? No one's going to Pinterest look for their next water heater, right? They're going to Pinterest, look at their kitchens and their outdoor living and their closet space and, the paint colors and office furniture. And like, that's what they're going to Pinterest and Houzz for. They're not going for HVAC systems and plumbing. So again, where's your target audience? But so, I mean, if you're an elective type service offer and like you do like really cool decks or pools or, like office or closet organization or remodel work, like kitchens, bathrooms, additions, I think Houzz and Pinterest would be a great place to be putting out. But again, like, understand how the platform works, right? We talked about that with Instagram. If you're not getting high quality pictures of your projects done, I would not get on Pinterest, because like they're looking for like the big, sexy, quality, high definition, good lighting, great, you know, staging type photos. So like, if you're not doing that, you probably won't be successful on those platforms.
Yep. Okay, and you already said the most important thing for it to be effective is consistency. As opposed to quality. Quality matters, obviously.
Quality
like
matters, but
Pinterest. If
consistency
you're going to get
will
on
outbeat
Pinterest,
quality.
you got to have quality. And if you're going to get on social media as a business, you need to be offering people something of value.
Yep.
Some kind of information. Hey, you know, look at this new style of cabinet door that such and such manufacturer has just put out. We're going to be
so there's
putting
two
those
things
in a
you can do
kitchen
with your content.
next week.
People are on social media to be entertained. So start there. If you're not entertaining, people aren't going to come back to you. Like, if all you post are before and after pictures, you're not entertaining. Like, that gets old. And here's where a lot of people fail is people buy people. People don't buy projects and services and products. They buy people. So like, having a human element to your content makes it more entertaining. People like engaging with and watching people that they enjoy watching and liking. So like, creating educational but entertaining content is like, and it could just be like a job site review. It could be a team meeting you just had. It could be an investment you're making. Like, just go be likable. And that's how you start to grow that part of it.
Okay. Okay. I think I've pretty much got enough material here to get that one going too. So I didn't have anything else today. We'll get those 3 done. And thanks so much for your time this morning, Mike. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I appreciate you. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, and I'll send you a copy of this. So
yeah, that'd be great.
Upload it and send you a link.
Yeah. Like, so how does just, I guess, post conversation, like, so you're a content writer, that's what you do?
I'm a content writer and editor. Yeah, I go in.
So like, if somebody in my audience wanted to talk to you about writing content for them, is that something that you're interested in? Like, is that something I can connect you with people, or what does that look like?
Absolutely. Susan Smith-Harmon at yahoo.com is the easiest way. Susan_Smith-Harmon at yahoo.com.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna post this on my podcast, so you're probably gonna get some opportunities from it.
Yeah,
so.
I do. I do a lot of home services writing. I spent years writing for a home inspector. So one of the beauties of that is I got to learn a lot about the various different systems in a house.
Yeah.
So, and the different services, you know, one of the things home inspectors do is they'll let you know if there's a problem, and you can usually call your home inspector and ask them, who's a good roofer, who's a good plumber, who's a good termite guy, you know, and they know where to send you. So you learn a lot about that. Yeah.
Yep. No, awesome. Right. Well,
thanks, Mike.
I'll put that in the show notes whenever we release it.
All right, great. Have a good day now.
Thank you.
Yep, bye.